Bringing up our keynote speaker, John Shegerian. Please give him a round of applause, y'all.
Yikes. How do I follow that kind of singing and that kind of dancing? I think we all got to give it up for those young men because I am not as good as them. Well, I'm honored and humbled to be here today in Tampa, beautiful Tampa. And I want to first give a couple thank yous before we get on with the show. First, I want to give a big thank you to James Zabrowski. James, you've done a hell of a job. This is a hell of an event. I've never, ever been in a room on a Saturday morning with so many young entrepreneurs in suits, ties, and dresses. I'm blown away. I don't see this kind of stuff. I'm asked to speak on a lot of occasions. This is amazing. I mean, I'm really inspired by all of you, and I'm humbled that all of you showed up today to hear me speak. I'm really honored by that. Also, I want to give a special thank you to Dr. Tim Stearns. Tim, where are you? I don't see you because I don't have my glasses on. Tim's been a friend of mine for 21 years and introduced me to James and said, come on down and meet the kids. They're amazing. I think he was right. You guys are amazing. You've been a constant source of inspiration and knowledge for me, Tim, for the last 21 years, and I'm really grateful to have you as a friend. I want to also give a couple other shout-outs before we get going here. Fresno State, are you in the house? Fresno State, my hometown where I live now, where I have a home now. I grew up in New York City. Fresno State students have always been so good to me, and I just want to say thank you for coming all the way from Fresno. Also, is Texas A&M in the house? Where's Texas A&M? I met a lot of you from Texas A&M while I've been walking around the hotel since I got here. Texas A&M holds a sweet spot in my heart because I was a kid growing up on welfare. And I didn't have any options really except going to college. And so as you'll see later in my comments, I was around racehorses growing up. So I sent an application into numerous colleges. And my dream was to be equine veterinarian. And I remember being 16 and a half years old when I got the first letter back. And it was from Texas A&M. And I sat at my kitchen table and I opened that letter. And it said, you are now accepted to Texas A&M. And this is a kid from Queens on welfare with not a lot of options. And I said to myself, I might be able to get out of here. I might be able to make something in my life. And I reread that letter 15 times, and I said, I have some hope. And so I never ended up going to Texas A&M, but I'm going to tell you right now, when I met all the young people the last couple days and they flashed their smiles and welcomed me warmly here, I just want to say Texas A&M is always going to have a warm place in my heart, because that was the first form of hope I ever had in terms of doing something with my life outside of what I was doing in Queens, New York. Last, I want to mention a young man named Jordan Harold. Where's Jordan Harold? Is he here today? Jordan, if you're here, just stand up. I can't see you. Are you here? There you are. Jordan Harold. Jordan, I'm going to tell you why I'm calling out Jordan. I was in my sweats yesterday, unshaven for 2 days, no lanyard around me. He doesn't know me from anybody. He gets on an elevator with me. And he sticks out his hand and introduces himself. I'm wearing a hat also, so I look like I just rolled out of the streets. And he gives me his business card and tells me why he's here and he's in a suit and a tie, and I ask him a couple questions about the organization, how the conference is going, and he answers them. And he then wishes me a good day. And this is all, I'm staying on the 3rd floor. This is from floors 1 to 3. And Jordan, you represent the best of young entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs in America, because a couple things that came out of that quick meeting, and you followed up, by the way, when I texted you after you got off that elevator, which I appreciated. A couple things for you young people in this audience. If you forget everything else I say today, when I get off of my little preamble, a young guy like that, to be that heads up on an elevator with a guy who does not look like I look like right now, and introduce himself with a wide smile. Couple things. Everything that is good, that's going to happen in your life is going to happen nose to nose. Technology is wonderful, but like I tell all the people who work with me, and I got about 1,000 employees right now, you close nose to nose. And your generation has been blessed and cursed with social media. And I tell them, you're never going to close anything or make any business ever happen, or your dreams a reality on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. I tell them all, get your face out of Facebook and go get in someone's face. And that's what Jordan did with me. He was heads up, put out his hand, gave me his business card, and then as soon as I texted him, responded right away and called me when I asked him to call me. So I came up to the music of Eminem, because I listened to that music all the time. It was when my son was 10 years old, he turned me on to it. And I love the words in that song especially. And it applies to entrepreneurs more than any song I've probably ever heard. And I just want to go over them again. Look, if you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? And I love the name of this conference, Turning Dreams into Reality. Making your dreams a reality. Turning a no to a go. Stop dreaming and start doing. Turning no's into go's. That's Jesse Itzler. He grew up about a mile from where I grew up in Queens, New York. He's about 5 years younger than me. Jesse wanted to be a rapper. Hey, Run DMC grew up in Hollis. They were right down the street from us. We all wanted to be rappers probably when we were growing up. And Jesse created a song, I Love This Game. That was the only song that really hit for him. It's now still the song of the NBA. But he was hanging around rappers and realized they needed other services, and he had some new ideas to help them out. They didn't really want to fly on commercial planes because they were seen as sort of the outcasts of society. They were the new guys on the block. So he created a little company called Marquis Jets. First timeshare jet company in the world. And then eventually sold them to NetJets for a lot of money. He then got into health and wellness and fitness, and he eats well, and he ran 100 miles in 24 hours to test his mental and physical abilities. And Jesse then was the first backer behind Zico coconut water and sold that to Coke, and then took all the money he's made and bought a little team called the Atlanta Hawks. He's a serial entrepreneur and a guy that's always inspired me, and we were introduced by some common friends because he knows I like to test physical, mental, and take on other challenges. And he married this young lady here who didn't grow up far from here. She grew up in Florida, and she had some dreams also. She was selling fax machines, and she was wearing pantyhose and didn't like the way pantyhose look on open-toed shoes. And so she cut the pantyhose off at the thighs. and she created a little company called Spanx. So Jesse and Sarah got together and then had 4 beautiful kids. And about 90 days ago, Jesse contacted me and said, hey, let's go do something. I said, what? He goes, Sarah and I rented a mountain. I said, a mountain? Who rents a mountain? He goes, no, dude, you don't understand. We're going to go do something super big. I said, super big, what is it? He goes, we're going to climb the mountain. I'm thinking to myself, I don't climb mountains. I don't own even trail boots. I don't even ski down mountains, nonetheless climb mountains. He goes, no. We're going to climb the mountain. It's 1.3 miles high, and it's at about a 35-degree angle. 35-degree angle. I'm looking up online, what's 35 degrees? Stairs are 59 degrees. Stairs. This is about half of stairs for 1.3 miles up. But that wasn't enough for Jesse. He then told me, no. I rented the whole mountain. On Friday afternoon, we're getting there, and we're climbing the mountain, 1.3 miles up. I said, okay, that sounds okay, all right. And there's only going to be about 100 or 200 of us with Sarah. I said, okay. He goes, oh, yeah, John, we're going to do it 17 times. 17 times. I said, why are we doing it 17 times? He goes, because that's the height of Mount Everest. 29,029 feet. We don't got to fly over there. We can do it right here in Vermont. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not in the best shape I've been. I'm almost 55 years old. I got to travel a lot on business. And I'm thinking of every reason not to do this. And I'm playing along with him on the phone. Oh, yeah, sounds good, yeah. Sure it does. Mount Everest. That originally never was on my bucket list, but it did sound like a heck of a challenge. And it was a dream of his to climb Mount Everest with people he knew that wanted to do it together. And I said, interesting. I said, Jesse, I'll get back to you. Let me think about it. And as I thought about it, I kept thinking about all the reasons not to do it. I might die. I'm not really in shape. I'm not going to finish all 17. I'll horribly embarrass myself. A lot of good reasons. I've never been to Stratton Mountain. I'm rarely ever in Vermont. But I digress. So this is American Pharoah. Let me start from the beginning. This is one of the greatest racehorses ever in American history. And you see that little guy on top of American Pharoah? That's a jockey. When I was 10 years old, I announced to my dad, Dad, I'm going to be a jockey. And he looked at me with really a loving face, and he brought me down to reality like dads are apt to do. And he said, son, jockeys weigh about 100 pounds. And you weigh about 150 right now. Jockeys are about 5'1", and you're about 5'5". So unless you found a way to shrink and lose 50 pounds and stop growing, that's not going to happen. So it was the first big no I've ever gotten in my life. And I took it in, and I realized no's only are sort of, I don't really see no's. I don't really even hear the word N. I just figured he said go, but he maybe just meant a different way. So I found a different way. My love of racehorses, of wanting to win, of challenging myself. So I started taking care of racehorses at the local racetrack, mucking stalls, and feeding them. And this is what I became. I became the youngest harness driver in the United States, and eventually built up a stable of 100 horses as I made my way through high school. I didn't care about my dad's no. He was just being a good dad. But there was another way to go. So I never really think no is no. It just means go, but just go do it your way. That's me when I was 17 years old. I was the youngest driver in harness racing history to ever set a world record. And now I was excited. 100 horses in my stable, youngest driver to set a world record. And I'm thinking, this is good. I'm on top of the world. So this was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at Liberty Bell Racetrack. So I went over to my dad's office a couple days later in New Jersey, and I said, Dad, I just set that world record. I think I now know what my calling is. And he said, what's that? I said, I want to be a harness driver the rest of my life. And he said, son, and he had that same look on his face when I was 10 years old. He said, son, do you know what that means? I said, what? Look back at this picture, everybody. He says, whether you're winning or losing or setting world records, all you're really doing every night is staring into a horse's ass. My second big no. So off I went to college, as he said I should do, and graduated from NYU, and then married a girl from California and moved to California, and went to law school with my brother. And I was following a track that was sort of normal, instead of looking into a horse's ass every night. I was all of 27 or 28 years old, working for a real estate developer in Los Angeles when the LA riots broke out in 1992 after the Rodney King trial. It was a very tragic time in Los Angeles. Most of you, all of you, were probably not born. But it was seriously horrible. And one of the guys in our market gave me the keys to the Tortilla and said, hey, I'm out of here. I'm moving to Mexico with my wife. I don't want to live in LA. I said, okay. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do with this Tortilla? And I'd seen a guy on television a couple of months prior, a guy named Father Greg Boyle, who started a program in East LA called Jobs for a Future. He's taking ex-gang members or gang-impacted youth and putting them to work. And his tagline was, nothing stops a bullet faster than a job. So I called Greg up, Father Greg, had him come over to our market, and I showed him the stall. And he said, what are we going to do with that? I said, we're going to put your kids to work here. And we did. And I said to him, what do we call the kids in East LA? He says, we call them homeboys and homegirls. I said, perfect. We're going to call this Homeboy Tortillas. And that's opening night. Those are the 4 original homeboys. That's me, yeah, with that ridiculous tie on. And that's my wife, who's pregnant with our son, and that's my daughter. And we didn't know what we were doing. We were just trying to help out these kids, fill up the stall, and do something good in a city that had nothing good going on at that time. Nothing. Everyone was against everybody. Horrible time in this country's history. And I learned a lot of lessons from this. Couple things. By the way, 25 years later, I had lunch with these 4 guys a couple weeks ago. It's 25-year history, 25-year anniversary a couple weeks back. And they taught me a lesson once again. They said, John, we're very thankful for your starting Homeboy with some other people, of course, Father Greg. I said, why is that? They said, there's 2 places we would have ended up. And they were just living normal lives now, wives, children, just like all of us in this room. They said there's only 2 places gang members end up: in jail or dead. And the tagline that Father Greg came up with, nothing stops a bullet faster than a job, is more applicable today than it even was 25 years ago. So my life changed very quickly. I realized you can make money in life, but you could also make a difference. And I decided at that moment that everything I did from there on I was going to make money so I could pay my bills, keep a roof over my family's head, but I was going to make a difference in whatever I did. So, after Homeboy Industries, which by the way is still going, and we've placed tens of thousands of young people, Father Greg Boyle still runs it. We've placed them into jobs. I started financialaid.com in 1998. And by the way, back in Homeboy, when I was starting Homeboy, everybody told me, don't do it. Don't bring those kids into the market. Don't do it. And I didn't hear no. I just said go. Financialaid.com. A couple young guys who made t-shirts said, let's do the internet. I said, what's the internet? This is 1997, 98. For you young people, this is the beginning of times. So we wrote a little business plan for financialaid.com and took it up to Silicon Valley, storied Silicon Valley. And every VC threw me out of their office and said no. And I said, why? They said, what do you know about the internet? I feel like going back to their offices today and saying, what do you guys know about the internet? 1998 was the year Google was founded. Nobody knew anything about the internet. So we had this little dream called financialaid.com to democratize student lending, to connect young people with student loans so they could get educated. So again, it fit the Homeboy model. Make money and make a difference. And we started that company. I went into debt for $1 million, signed every personal guarantee, put my house up, mortgaged my house. No VC gave us any money. 2 doctors and 1 lawyer and 1 businessman gave us $150,000. Financialaid.com became the largest student lender online in the world, and we got up to $3 billion a year in loan origination, and we democratized the student lending process. And we connected students with opportunities to get educated. And I sold that company in 2004 and thought I was going to take a little time off. But again, we took a no and made it a go. We took a dream and made it a reality by doing. By taking a dream and making it a reality, all you got to do is do. Not hope. Don't listen to mom, dad, boyfriend, girlfriend, best friend, worst friend. Or don't listen to the negative thoughts in your head, which, as my wife was listening to NPR the other day, she said, oh, we all have 60,000 negative thoughts a day. I said, good, I want to try to cut that to 59,000 today. But it's true. That's the science of this. We filled the need at financialaid.com, and we made a difference. And then came ERI, the backside of the technological revolution. The fastest growing waste stream in the world was electronic waste, your cell phones, your television sets. So 3 months after I sold financialaid.com, I started ERI. I had a dream. I had a vision. Everyone told me don't do it. They said Waste Management and Republic Services, the 2 biggest waste companies in this country, are going to eat your lunch. You don't have a prayer. You don't know anything about the waste industry. I didn't know from the waste industry. I was a .com guy. I was trained as a lawyer. But I said, I'm going to do it. I didn't hear no. In my mind, I heard go. Just go. Go do it. No one's doing it. Just get it done. April 2005, we opened our doors. We recycled 10,000 pounds of electronic waste. 12 years later, April 2017, we recycled 25 million pounds in 8 locations in 1 month. 1,000 jobs. And a lot of those jobs, a lot of the people who work for me came out of situations like Homeboy. I took that experience and I applied it at ERI. People who were marginalized, out of addiction centers, homeless, out of jail. People who needed a second chance, maybe a third chance, in many cases, a last chance. And I put them to work at ERI. We're now the largest electronic waste recycling company in the world. So you can make money and make a difference. You can take your dreams and make them a reality if you just do. Don't worry about no. Take no and forget the N and just put a G there and hear go, go, go. That's all I've ever done time and time again. Let me show you an example. This is a racehorse, going back to my racehorse days. This is a horse with blinders. I don't know how many of you go to the racetrack or have ever seen a racehorse with blinders, but there's a real reason horses wear blinders. It's so they don't run sideways, they don't see the crowd, they don't see their competition, because without these, they would run across the track, they could run into another horse, they could fall down, and never make it to the finish line. You have to imagine yourself when you have a dream or an idea or a vision, you have to imagine yourself as a racehorse with blinders. Because all you'll see is forward. All you'll see is the finish line. If you can't imagine it, okay, maybe now you can. That's really how you have to live as an entrepreneur. If you want to take your dreams and make them a reality. If you want to start dreaming and start doing, just do. Don't listen to any negative thoughts in your head or any negative thoughts that anyone else is putting out there. I'm almost 55 years old. And once you're cursed and blessed with the entrepreneurial bug, it never leaves you. And that's a good thing, because it keeps you young. Keeps me here with all of you. All of you re-inspire me to keep doing more of whatever I'm doing or what I think could be the next great thing. So I'll tell you what I'm thinking about today. That's me. May 2014. Like my big Armenian nose wasn't big enough before I had to fall. I fell because I went through 4 different time zones in 6 days. I was traveling tremendously. I was dehydrated. And what I realized is, even though I've been a vegan since I'm 17 years old, and I exercise every day, I wasn't getting any sleep. So in the middle of the night, I woke up to go to the kitchen in my house. My wife was traveling on business for ERI. My kids are grown and out of the house in college and law school at that point. And I started walking to the kitchen, and I woke up at some point, and all I heard was the faucet dripping. I was going to the kitchen to get some coconut water to just try to get myself, and I had never made it to the coconut water. It wasn't the faucet dripping. It was me face down on the floor, which was stone in the kitchen. I had broken my nose in 2 places, opened my forehead up. It was a bad scene. And I realized I got to change something. So I started thinking. This was May 2014. And I started thinking about the sleep industry and that who is helping people like me that can't sleep. And I started texting my kids and asking them, are they sleeping at school? Your generation is the Starbucks generation. Monster, Rockstar, 5-Hour Energy, Red Bull. Plus, you have all your cell phones and your iPads and your laptops in bed with you. So you have all the blue rays coming and messing up your beta rays. So the convergence of the technological revolution with the energy revolution creates the mess that I was in. And I wanted to see if anybody else is in it. My son said to me, Dad, half my friends take Benadryl and NyQuil, and he was 20 at the time. He says, half my friends take Benadryl, NyQuil, ZQL to go to sleep, and the other half of my friends, I don't want to tell you what they do. And I asked older people than me, I said, what are you guys doing for sleep? And they were on Ambien, Lunestra, ZQL, NyQuil, Avil-PM, Tylenol-PM, $41 billion worth of aids. And I said, I got to fix this. This doesn't make any sense. So, in January, it's going to be the first sleep beverage, vegan, non-GMO, ever in the world. You drink it 30 minutes before bed. My tagline is, if you can't sleep, you get some. No drugs. It's NSF certified. I don't know if anyone here knows what NSF is, but that means any athlete, professional or amateur, could drink it and never have a positive because there's no medicine in it, and it's good for you. Now, I'm not a prude. I'm not saying marijuana is bad for you. It's going to make you everything go wrong. But I know that none of us should be taking Advil PM every night, NyQuil, Benadryl, ZQuil, or any of that kind of stuff to go to sleep. None of us. So as you see, there's huge opportunities, and even though everyone was telling me I can't fix the sleep industry, I said, that's not true. Over 5,000 people have already tried this, and for 90% of the people, it's worked. The other 10%, I'll give you an example. There's a friend of mine, he tried, he said, John, I love the taste. But he said, it didn't really help me. So I said, what do you do now to go to sleep? He said, I take 3 Ambiens a night. It's hard to switch someone right away from 3 Ambiens to an all-natural drink. But my point to you is, again, even in my early 50s, people were telling me no, and I said, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go do it. So, what now? Jesse called me up 60 days left and said, what are you going to do? You going to join me? And I gave him a whole list. Dude, can't make it. I'm so busy. I'm starting a new business. He knew about some. I'm running ERI still. 1,000 employees. I got to travel. And I could hear this uncomfortable silence on the phone. And then I started thinking, what's my list of why I should do it? And I was on the cell phone with him, and I was in front of my iPad and looking at my calendar, and I saw this date here. And the real reason was you. I'm not going to show up today here and tell you about all these stories about hearing no in my head, no from others, and then I'm going to tell Jesse Itzler, the Jesse Itzler, no. So I just said, Jesse, it's a go. And I didn't want to show up here and be anything but authentic. That was October 15th, 2017. That was the hardest thing I've probably ever done in my life, physically and mentally. Not only because it just shreds your body like no other. Going up a hill. Oh, by the way, he didn't tell me there's natural springs on the hill, so by the time you get halfway up the hill, it becomes mud. So either your foot goes down and sinks, or it goes down and slides. The level of difficulty was incredible. They were world-class athletes there who have actually climbed Everest and other things, and they all said this was one of the toughest things, if not the toughest thing they've ever done in their life. But I did it. And the tough thing wasn't even just going up. Actually, once you came down on the gondola, the real tough thing was making the right-hand turn to go back up again. Because your body just said, I don't want to do this. So as Sir Edmund Hillary said, it's not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves. If you want to dream, it's wonderful. But if you want to do, you're conquering yourself. Forget the other people that are saying no. Just say go. Steve Jobs said it better than I could. Make something wonderful. And I don't care what it is. A service, a sleep drink, Homeboy, anything that you're dreaming of. And just put it out there. If you put your heart and soul in it, the response will overwhelm you. So, on all of that, I just want to say thank you for inviting me here today. I'm thankful that I was invited to this by James and Dr. Stearns. I don't think I would have done that mountain otherwise. I came for all of you, and I hope a couple of the lessons I shared today help inspire you to go take your dreams, start doing them, and make them a reality. And I'm happy to take any questions and do any questions and answers. And anyone can contact me right here at my email address. Those two email addresses, you can contact me. And feel free to call me after you contact me. But thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me today.
Can we get a water for John? Someone to help out with that. Or you have a water, John? So we're going to take a couple questions. But first, I'm going to start with one, if that's okay, John. So
sure.
I think it's fascinating. So you've got you've got the radio show. Mm-hmm. You've got Homeboy Industries.
Yeah.
Financial aid.
Yeah.
ERI.
Yep.
You're helping people sleep.
Yeah.
What is the connective tissue?
The connective tissue is you make money, but because you got to pay bills. There's no shame in being a capitalist in this country. It's one of the greatest countries in the world, and it's okay to be a capitalist, but you got to make a difference. Sure. Whatever you do, make a difference, either in your community, in the country, in the world. Take on challenges that make you feel good when you go to bed at night, no matter how much money you're making.
Fantastic. Now I'm going to open it up to the audience. See if anyone has any questions. Yes.
Just tell me where you're from and what's your name.
I'm Syracuse University. So you talked about how when you got involved in the RI, when you got involved with your website, like you didn't really know the fields beforehand.
Right.
But obviously, like there was a learning curve, right? So going into those fields, what was the process like to actually learn an industry and then become a dominant?
That's a brilliant question. He said, you didn't know any of those fields before you went into it. I didn't know anything about social entrepreneurship. There was no such words as social entrepreneurship when we were starting Homeboy. I didn't know anything about the student lending industry or the internet. Obviously, it was just 1998. So the question is, what's the learning curve like, and what's that theme about learning curves and not knowing an industry? I think it's a distinct advantage. When I was starting Som, people said, you don't know anything about the sleep industry. I said, better yet, because I'm not going to be influenced by anything I knew in the past. I'm going to just come in, throw bricks through the windows, and try to create a whole new paradigm. And that's what I did with ERI, financialaid.com, Som. Everything I've done was about creating new paradigms and not worrying about what was done in the past and drawing upon that. You learn everything you can, but then you also try to keep your eyes forward, like I showed you with the blinders, so that way, yeah, learning about what's been done in the industry historically is important, but putting your vision to work and looking forward with blinders is how you create a reality that hopefully will get a good response out in the marketplace.
So you didn't see it as a naivete, you saw it as fresh eyes, you saw it as an advantage.
Fresh eyes is a massive advantage to any new business you want to start. 100%. Better, it's better said than I could.
So, yeah, we've got a question back there.
I'll put my glasses on so I can see you. Go ahead.
All right, so whenever you were tired or demotivated, didn't know if you wanted to keep on going, what was it that you thought about that got you to get up and, I guess, keep pushing?
Honestly, life has changed. When I was your age, the world talked about retiring at 62 or 63 in Social Security. Now, the greatest entrepreneurs are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they're still creating. Richard Branson and all those that generation of entrepreneurs still create into their 70s, 80s, and 90s. So to me, there's no such thing as retirement. It's just evolving and helping to continue to make the world a better place and make a difference. So I think that's what you're walking into. Your generation is going to live older than my generation. So to me, you got to take the long view on everything you do. You're building a life resume. So everything, one thing's going to lead to another, and you're going to hopefully, God willing, live to be 100 or more. So just think about where you are now, and you have 80 years of creating ahead of you, or something like that. So don't think, and there's no such thing as failure, by the way. When I say don't hear no and go, have I made mistakes? Heck yeah. Those mistakes aren't failures. They're just lessons. That's all it is. Life is a big lesson and a big journey. So if you don't worry about failing, or because there's no such thing as failure. If you're out doing, you're out really doing the hard stuff where everyone else is just sitting back. And if you're doing and you make a mistake, that's just a lesson along the way on your journey to success.
Hot seat question for you. You don't get to be where you are today without developing a lot of leaders around you. What are 3 skills, super quick, that you think the folks in this room could benefit from obtaining?
Great question. People skills. We are all too dependent on technology. As I said at the top of my comments, get your face out of Facebook and get into somebody's face. The personal touch means more now in your generation than it meant in mine, because everyone didn't have technology then. There was no technology. We were all having to go face to face. Now if you go make it a personal, make anything you do personal, you'll win. You'll win the race in whatever you're trying to do. The other 2 things are character. You can't overemphasize good character. And the third is the victor. Don't ever be a victim. Be of service in whatever you're doing. If you're getting coffee for the boss on your way up the ladder, if you're helping out a client, be of service, but do it with a victor's mentality, not a victim's mentality. Be a victor, not a victim, and you're going to win every time.
Fantastic. We have time for 2 more questions, so all the way in the back.
All right, so I go to Mississippi State, and I was just wondering, given your circumstances growing up, how did you keep your motivation and your vision to get out of where you were at?
Well, it was just, we were kids in Queens. Like I said, my brother and I, my family was on welfare, and it was just dreaming. You find people. Back when I was a kid, my heroes were either sports heroes or they were Muhammad Ali and Martin Luther King and JFK. I was born in '62. So those were my heroes. And I read books about them, and I said, if they came out of the circumstances they came out of and they went on to greatness, I could do the same, whatever that meant. And I had no idea when I was 10 years old or 8 years old. So I tried to create and inspire myself by reading and keeping myself inspired. And I'm still a reading junkie. I read a ton. I listen to podcasts. That music that I came out to, Eminem's music, I was listening to that music while I was climbing the mountain a couple weeks back at Stratton. That's what, I'm motivated and I'm inspired by everything around me, including all of you, like I said, and that's what keeps me going constantly. And you got to constantly re-inspire yourself. There's never such thing. This is all one big learning process, and there's more information out there than ever before. So the more you can learn and absorb and then apply, the more successful you're going to be in whatever you do.
Fantastic. We've got time for one more. Yep. Yep.
Hi, John. My name is Chuck Papagiorgio. I gave the opening keynote, and I closed it by saying, if you make $1 million and don't help anybody, you're just an asshole with $1 million.
It's absolutely
and
true.
It echoes what you said, and one of the young people at the table looked at me and says, did you write his speech too? And I said, no, we all think the same way. Can you tell him why?
Why do you believe it's not just about how much you make, but how much of a difference you make? Why does that second part, why does that matter? Why not just be a guy who focuses on, how much ROI you're making or how much?
That's not interesting, because the truth of the matter is, you could only, generally speaking, when the studies have been done on money, if you have a roof over your head and a comfortable bed to sleep in, clean bed, life is good. This country is such a great country that really we don't need that much. But when you go to bed at night When I was with the Homeboys that I showed you in that picture, and they're all adults now, and they're not dead, and they're not in jail, and they say to me, Jefe, thousands of young people over 25 years have been saved from the streets because of your dream. What kind of money could I spend? First of all, you don't need that much. Second of all, with Psalm, I'm creating Psalm now. If I could just take 1% of the $41 billion of people medicating themselves to go to sleep and have them go to sleep naturally now, and they get better rest, and they feel better, and they're a better mom or a dad or a student or a brother or sister. So what? I made a little money along the way, but I ain't taking it with me. It's really the legacy that you leave behind and the other people that you inspire and help along the way that makes this whole journey worthwhile. Once you've made a little bit of enough. When I was a kid growing up, to your point, I always wanted to be a millionaire. And then once I became a millionaire, I was like, okay, so what? Financialaid.com was sold, and I thought I was going to take a year off. I wrote the business plan in 2 months, and we launched. I sold financialaid.com on October 15, 2004, and ERI was opened in April of 2005. From the extra bedroom in my house, we created ERI. And 25 million pounds were recycled in April that we kept out of landfills, and we kept out of the ecosystem from polluting our plants, our bodies, and our animals. That feels a lot better than a couple extra dollars in the bank account. So,
Thank you so much, John. It's been a pleasure.
thank you, man.
You bet.
Thank you. Nice job. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So we're going to get right into the next speaker in the interest of time. So I'd like to bring up Dr. Ernest Cadat, founder of Innovative Learning Solutions. He's the professor of learning and innovation at the University of Tennessee. He earned his PhD at Ohio State University in marketing logistics. For more than 20 years, Dr. Cadat has been developing business flight simulators, you saw him speak yesterday, for college students and entrepreneurs.